to our channel E&A Day2Day. I actually wanted to chat with you. Today is February 9th, 2021. And as what I had said from the last video, I wanted to go over the timeline that I've been involved with bariatrics. So I have my computer here, and there's been a lot of information over the past year that I'm going to have to look and relate to you as I go. But I wanted to touch base in that, you know, from the last video where you left off, we could put it in the iCart here. I started this journey back September of 2019. And from here, I'm going to read where I've been, what I've done so far in this journey. So, as I stated, I mentioned it before, I spoke to the doctor in September of 2019, and I had him send over a referral to bariatrics. So, as I'm reading, you're going to see information pop up here, and it's going to tell you everything that I've done because I'm going to be looking at my computer. So here we go. Here's what I wanted to share with all of you who've been waiting for this. As I mentioned from before, I spoke with my doctor and had him send a referral to the Bariatric Centre in my area. And from then to now, I'm going to talk about where I currently am in this process. So September 2019, this is the appointment where I spoke with my doctor and requested a referral be sent over to the Bariatric Centre in my area. Then from this day, the waiting began. And what I thought actually was going to be quite some time actually only took about 6 weeks. So I wanted to actually chat with you about that. I thought it was going to be a longer process because I have heard from previous people that it could take quite a long time just to get into the actual starting the process, which would be through orientation. But for me, I had it mailed out to me, which I got surprised in the mail when I got the referral, followed by a phone conversation with the bariatrics. So that was actually kind of surprising. So as we continue, so in November of 2019, I had received a call from the bariatric clinic stating that they were calling to advise that they had booked me an appointment for orientation. So when I had received this call, it was unexpected. I was not expecting that they would call me that early, but they had done, they did. So from there, it was in December. So my appointment got moved and moving along, sorry, not moved. And I was booked in for the bariatric orientation in December of 2019. So I arrived with my husband. You're allowed to bring a person with you along as support. And so I had chose to bring my husband along because he's my support. So when we arrived to the clinic, which is actually in our hospital, the clinic where I'm having bariatrics done, is the availability to bring someone, like I had said in there, was a support person. That could be anybody. It could be your spouse. It could be another relative. It could be a coworker or a friend. Anybody that you feel that you have support from as you're going through this journey. So as a side note, I wanted to actually mention is a disclaimer here. Before I go further, I wanted to mention that the information that I had received and experienced at the bariatrics clinic in my area could differ from other information and procedures from other centers. I'm actually located in Canada, and for those people who reside outside of the area, there may be different information offered alternatively, or other solutions when it comes to bariatrics. So at our clinic, I'll get into what they offer, but at different areas or different countries, they may offer something different. So to start, when I went into the orientation with my husband, they went over specific information that they offer at our clinic. Two procedures that they offer is the rouxeny and the gastric sleeve. And these are two procedures that have been done several times, obviously, at that hospital. Most common one to have done is the rouxeny, and I will link it in here to what those procedures are about and what happens with them. So in through the link that I have put there, that information is actually from sources that were found online. They're not mine personally, but anyone can Google on there, look online for rouxeny and gastric sleeve and what they're about, and give you the information of what would happen during that procedure. So I wanted to say, aside from the surgical information, that I wanted to provide the basic overview of what was discussed. So the information session first started with the social worker. He went over just certain, like, how you're feeling regarding your health and your well-being. They want to make sure that you're doing this for you and not for someone else. They wanted to make sure that your availability for yourself to be able to take this step is for you, and that this is a big journey to want to go down this road. So after the social worker had finished talking, then an information session with the dietitian regarding food choices and amounts was discussed, and she was a lovely lady and went over all of the information regarding amounts, sizes, food choices, and what your new pouch, is what they call it, would be able to hold, and different things you'd be able to try as food sources. After that, medication was also discussed, of what is allowed and what is not allowed. So you go through the bariatric clinic, certain medications are allowed and certain medications are not allowed. So they went over that type of information. Possible complications after surgery. It was a big eye-opener to actually see what sort of complications happen, minor and or not. And then, of course, your qualifications. So you have to qualify for bariatrics. You have to be able to follow their guidelines of what they offer. Different clinics may be offering different approvals of what they go for their guidelines, but that was discussed. And then, of course, your signing of your paperwork. So if you follow through and you say, yes, I'm ready and I qualify, then you would sign your paperwork. And then what sort of surgery you would actually be looking to do. So after they go over both the rouxeny and the gastric sleeve, they ask you to, after their information session, which one would you think would be best suited for you. And then I was advised that if I met that criteria and their qualifications, that I would be approved to move further into the program, and I would be mailed out a confirmation letter in weeks to follow. So that actually, what they had said, roughly about 2 weeks, took a little bit longer than 2 weeks, took almost double that time. And in February of 2020, I received a confirmation of approval along with an appointment date with the bariatric nurse. So the next step after you go through the the Bariatric Orientation, the very first step. Once you get past that, you go in to speak with the bariatric nurse. So I got confirmation and my appointment date was set for March. So I was really excited at this point because I now moved on to the next step. Each step is kind of like a little victory. So it was really important. So March, my appointment date was booked to speak with the nurse on the 23rd of March, 2020. And however, we all know that lovely COVID came in. So everything happening with bariatrics stopped because of COVID and their restrictions. So I was really bummed. That was like a little victory that was just crushed. I was really upset, but I had to look at the positives for Canada, the world, everyone else going through the restrictions with COVID. I just basically looked at and said, I'm just going to take the positives and wait for them to call me back when everything reopens again. It discouraged me a little bit, but I was looking forward to the positives, like I had said, and I wasn't going to give up. I knew that it was eventually going to move forward, so I just went with the process. So now as moving along, June 2020, I'd received a call from Bariatrics stating that they were going to rebook me for the clinical to speak with a nurse to proceed with my journey. So I was really, really happy that it didn't take months and months. It took 3 months, but I was moving along on my journey now. I was very happy. I'd waited so long, but I was glad I was moving forward. So July, now we're up to July 2020. So I had an appointment with the bariatric nurse. And at this appointment, you discuss certain things. So when you're going into the actual clinic, and because it was in a hospital, of course, you go through the settings with what the hospital guidelines are with COVID. So after I'd actually got up there to chat with her, we discussed a lot of personal information that I won't fully disclose all of the stuff that we had chatted about, but what the main parts that you would discuss with the nurse is what brought you to bariatrics. So that was very important to me. They want to make sure that there's nothing that would be holding you back or maybe cause for concern that they would need to investigate to look at further. They do your body measurements. So I have body measurements done around the belly, around your hips, your height, and they make sure that you qualify again. And then, of course, your weight. So they do take a weight measurement to make sure that you still qualify through your BMI and your weight. So that's how they measure with bariatrics to see if you qualify. And, of course, so a little discussion here. So after I had chatted with the nurse, I was provided with the knowledge that 2 referrals would be sent. One for internal medicine and the other for a sleep study to be completed. She had asked me if I had heard of another part of the hospital. So she had sent me to another part of the hospital to have an ECG and blood work. So that is part of what I had to do through my first section with the nurse. I had an ECG done before, but not to the extent of what I did get, and not to the extent of the blood work that had to be drawn. She said from these results that they would show on for the next steps. So, moving along, this was all in July, and so my blood results also come back in July, and it was about a week it took. And the results showed that I had a bacteria called H. pylori, and I needed to take antibiotics to get rid of it. It also revealed that I needed to increase my potassium, and my iron was a bit too high. So from that, I was put on antibiotics for H. pylori. And after 2 doses, you realize sometimes meds don't go along with your system, and these meds did not. I was throwing up every time I had to take them, and it really discouraged me a little bit there. I wanted to be able to take the medication needed to get rid of this bacteria, but I did not want to be sick anymore. So no one likes to be sick, especially in the summertime. That was really awful. So I had contacted the bariatric clinic and let them know that I was still sick and I wanted to find out where we could go. So they put me on another medication, and that medication actually helped a lot, and I was not sick anymore. So that was a bonus. And for my iron, I was to stop any vitamins that I was taking until further notice. And for my potassium, I needed to increase it with food intake or vitamin supplement form. And then from this conversation that I had, I was advised that I would receive a call about getting a breath test done to ensure that H. pylori was gone, and further blood tests may be needed in the future. So how to test to make sure that your H. pylori bacteria is gone is you get a breath test done. You have to wait a certain time frame in between, and because you have to allot for your medication to be able to take effect. So I did, and then I was waiting for a call to let me know when that was going to be done. So now we move along, we're into August. And so I received a call from the nearby hospital near us to book an appointment for an abdominal scan. I didn't know I needed to get an abdominal scan done. I wasn't sure, like she never said that I needed to get one done, but apparently, surprise, I need to get one done. So I had that. I got a call, and then now we're moving along to September. So now we're into September already. And so an abdominal scan was completed, and the following Monday I received a call from internal medicine for a phone consult, which was great. During the phone consult with the internal medicine, I had mentioned the concerns regarding the high iron and the possibility of hemochromatosis. So that hemochromatosis is where you have too much iron in your body, and it doesn't process, your body doesn't process it well enough, and so it can sometimes make you sick, and it's hereditary. So a family member of mine has this, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have it, and because my iron had come back a little bit too high. So just to make it safe on this, just to be safe. So she stated that she'd send a requisition over to have that checked, and any other issues that would go along with that. She also said the results for my abdominal scan were good, so that was great news. And I mentioned about checking my leg because I have a history of blood clots. So I wanted to make sure that the blood clots that I previously had when I was younger, and having a stent in my leg, I had not had it checked probably about, give or take, 15 years. So I wanted to make sure that that was all good and there was nothing going on there. And so she said she'd send over to have a requisition done for that. And that she'd have to send a more referral for a CAT scan to be completed to ensure that everything was good. So now we're moving along to October. So nearing Halloween, lots have happened. So I received a call for a spot to have the overnight sleep study completed. And I was excited to receive this call as the wait list to have it completed was really lengthy. My results would be available in a week, and I would receive a phone call on the second week. So having your sleep study is very important. It's part of the study. Like when I went in to see the nurse, she did measurements of my neck and she asked a few questions. And so that is what led to a sleep study. Not everybody has to do one for bariatrics, but I am one of the ones that did have to get that done. So 2 days before the end of the month, I went to have my breath test done. So I got a phone call and had an appointment booked to have my breath test checked to make sure the H. pylori was gone. And the results would be available to me in the next couple weeks. And while there, I went to get my blood drawn to check also for hemochromatosis. So I did, because that hospital is a little bit of a distance away, I wanted to make sure that I got checked at that hospital for the blood work and get it all done in one shot at the same spot. So that brought me now to November of 2020. I received a call from the sleep specialist, and it was advised that I needed to be on a breathing machine at night. So I was really surprised that I'd have to have that done. I did not know that I had concern for having to have a machine at night. You do what you have to do. That's part of like why you go through what they put you through bariatrics to get to that point. They check everything to make sure you're going to be healthy going through this process. So I needed to go on the breathing machine to improve the quality of my sleep and to make sure that I was breathing properly. So he said he would send over the report in place to the area near me to have the machine, to get the machine from them and to go over how to clean it and how to take care of that and what to do in that whole process. And so that I would be on the machine for 2 weeks to see what my breathing was like. So I'd be on this machine for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks they would check out how everything was with me, and then from there they would figure everything out and see if anything needed to be adjusted. So I had an appointment to pick up the machine on November 16th, and 2 weeks had started. So that was then. In December, the sleep clinic called to see how things were going, and I told her everything was going great and I felt better in the morning. So I actually did feel better after being on the machine for a couple of weeks, which helped a lot. It helped me with being able to be more alert in the morning and not feel so tired through the day to take naps. So she advised that they do a slight adjustment, and when they did this adjustment, I came home for a 3-day night with a monitor on my finger that would make sure that the stats that we're reading from the machine were reading correctly with the little stat machine that went on my finger. And so I did on the new adjustment. So once they adjust your machine, you have to be on it for another 2 weeks to make sure that the adjustment that they give you is actually going well. So I was put on this adjustment for another 2 weeks on the sleep study. And so January, so now we went into a full other year. So it had taken from September to December to get all of those reports done. So now we're into January of 2021. And I received a phone consult appointment with the sleep clinic for a follow-up regarding the new adjustment and how well it was going. I told her everything was going well and I was feeling better. And she advised that she was sending over the 2-week sleep report study to Bariatrics, and everything was good to go on their end, and they wished me luck. So it was really great to finally get to the end of that whole journey with the sleep study. It was a long process, but it was going good. Everything was going great. Most bariatric clinics that I know of need to have that report sent over before you go further in the process. I had called over to the bariatric clinic, and I had figured that once I received the sleep study that was the last thing I needed to get handed in to move forward again to another new step, a little victory. I figured I completed everything to move on, and however, I called the bariatric to ask for the next steps, and I was advised I needed to complete an echocardiogram. So that is something I did not know I needed to do either, And apparently they had sent over the referral when all this COVID stuff was going on, and they lost my referral. So I had to, she immensely apologized, but I said, you know what happens, things happen. So another referral went over to somewhere actually closer, which was more of a bonus. And I had to go in and have an echocardiogram just before Christmas. And then that was the last thing. That was the absolute last thing that I needed to do to complete everything and all the requirements they wanted me to go through. And I was super excited after that. So, once at the end of January, I had finally made it to the next step. I had my echo done and the report was received. So February. So now we're into February, and that's current. So most current right now is I've moved on to the next step, which is surgical orientation. So the next step after going through all that is required for the qualifications, you have a surgical orientation. And so Bariatrics called and advised I had a virtual surgical orientation set for February 4th, 2021. It was set up at the same, as I had for the Bariatric Orientation in December 2019. Only this time the information received was regarding the surgical process. So they went over everything that they had originally done in the first meeting, and they had given you things that they had hoped that you had accomplished by now, which gave you a year. Some of the things, just as an example, was to stop drinking pop. Anything carbonated was to stop. Caffeine was another thing that they were wanting you not to have in your system in your life anymore. Could potentially cause complications. So in this surgical orientation, they wanted to make sure that through that whole time since they've mentioned this, that you've actually progressed and actually taken those steps. So Bariatrics advised that they were ready for me on that date, and it was set up, and it would be virtual, so I'd do it through my home instead of going in. Normally before COVID, they would have it where you would come over and do a meeting like I did originally in 2019 prior to COVID. And so now, because of COVID, everything was done virtually online. So in this process, in this session, it included information session with the social worker regarding updates in your progress and what to expect after surgery. That was very important. It regarded the social worker telling you, hoping that everything was going great with everybody's lives, and wanted to know where in the process through bariatrics you currently were. And so then we had the information session with the dietitian regarding OptiFast, vitamins, and food intake after surgery. So like I stated, vitamins are for life. You will be on vitamins for the rest of your life. Certain vitamins that they had go over, and like I said, certain bariatric clinics may offer different options, but this bariatric clinic went over 3 different types that you could be offered to go on. OptiFast is a drink that you take prior to surgery, and I will get into more of that when I'm actually on it. I'm not on it currently. I am on to the next step now, but before I get into that, I just wanted to say OptiFast is a drink you take prior to surgery to help prepare for surgery. And basically going over the food intake again, only this time talking about the different types of food and the variants of different types of style of food. So going from liquid to going to puree to semi-solids and then solids. Training your stomach to eat all over again. Other than that, I will insert, because I couldn't record the actual orientation, surgical orientation. I could not record it due to confidentiality, but I did actually take a picture and or video of myself prior to the surgery, which I will insert right there. And as of this moment, it says in here, I just wrote a note to myself. As of this moment, I'm now waiting for the surgical consult with the surgeon in regards to surgery. And I will keep everyone updated when this happens, as I'm looking forward to a surgical date. So basically right now, before I end the video, I wanted to actually say that right now the next step, so I've followed the first process, then I went through the second process, which is the orientation, surgical orientation, and now I'm on to the third process. Third process is actually just before you have surgery. You'll have a consult with the actual surgeon. So I'm really excited. I have waited a long time from September of 2019 to February of 2021. But I'm almost there, guys, and it's almost to that point of surgery time. So I wanted to say to everyone, this journey has not been easy. It has been a long road, and I just keep going forward. Do the little victories that you have. Encourage the little victories that you have in each step in each process that you're going through. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody. And if you like the video, that would, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, you can actually subscribe to the videos, because we'll be having further videos regarding Eric's process and where he is with his journey. And we'll just keep adding some love to everybody. So thanks very much, everyone, and we will chat soon. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below, and when we see them, we will try to get around to everybody. Bye, guys. Have a great evening.